This is day 5 of the 30-day Excel challenge, and this will be part 1 of data visualization in Excel. So, you've probably heard this before. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Your brain understands pictures faster than tables. The whole purpose of a data visualization is to reduce how much brain power you need to extract the meaning from the data. So when you're working with raw numbers, it can take some time to spot patterns or make sense of what's happening in the data. But if you have the right visual, your message becomes obvious. In fact, it becomes so obvious, you actually don't need to explain much. People just get it. So great visualization helps you tell stories that numbers alone can't, guide your audience to what matters most, and make faster decisions without digging through all your data. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Imagine you're running a small cafe and you're reviewing last week's sales. So at first glance, it looks fine. But if I had to find out which sold the most, I'd have to scan and compare the rows for my answer. But if I turn this into a simple chart, just like so, and now you're going to see that orange juice is the top performer. And you're also going to see veggie wrap is the least favorite. Then we now say to ourselves, perhaps the veggie wraps are selling the least because not many people know that we sell them. Now we can respond by increasing the marketing behind it or stick to what is selling best and stock more of that instead. So now let's look at another example. So this time, let's see how much the cafe is spending on ingredients last month. Let's say we're trying to visualize the data, but we've made a few poor design decisions in the process. So we've used a 3D pie chart. There are too many distracting colors. There's no title, and there's a weird use of shadows and gradients that aren't really telling us anything about the data. So this looks more like a decoration instead of an insight. So your audience will be looking at this and be asking themselves, what is the takeaway here? What do you want me to see here? So in other words, even though the data is visualized, it's made us more confused instead of helping us understand what the key message is here. So let's actually compare that to a clean bar chart. And now this time, what you're going to notice is this has a clear title, and the title tells us what this is about. And the bars are in descending order. So it starts from highest to lowest. And the color highlights the most expensive item. So as you can see, juice fruits is in dark brown or dark orange. And the other bars are in a lighter shade, just to reduce the noise and focus on them. So now you don't actually need to put too much effort explaining what the chart is saying because it's telling the story for you. And that's what a good data visual does. So how do you choose the right charts? What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some of the ones that you actually need to know. So the first one is column charts. So use column charts when you want to compare at least two different categories next to each other. So for example, if you want to compare sales for 1 month against another month, I'm going to show you how to create a column chart. So we're going to select the range A1 to B6 or the entire data set. And then we're going to go into insert. And then you're going to go into insert column or bar chart over here. And then you're going to click on clustered column chart. So I'm just going to zoom out a bit. I'm just going to drag this here. Now, under chart design and under add chart element, click on axis titles. So I'm going to start with the horizontal one, which will be the X axis. And then I'm just going to name this months. And then I go to add chart element again, and then axis titles, and then primary vertical for the Y axis. And then what I'm going to do is name this sales by $. And that way I can actually change the title to monthly sales. And now you can compare the different sales for each month against each other. Bar charts are like column charts, but turned sideways. So use them if you want to rank your categories. The longest bar will be at the top if you sort your data from the largest to the smallest. So this is going to make it easy to spot the highest performer or spotting the categories that performed the poorest. for example, if I want to see which food products sold the most, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the entire range of the data set, and then I'll go into insert. And then once again, I'm going to insert column or bar chart. And this time I'm going to go to clustered bar and then just click that. So I'm just going to zoom out again, then just drag this somewhere here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the title to comparing product sales, or you can call it product sales comparison. Then go to add chart elements, and then you're going to add an axis title. So let's start with the horizontal. So of course, this is your sales in dollars. And then we'll add chart element again, axis titles, and then primary vertical. And this time we're going to type products. And if you want to take it to the next level, you can actually highlight the highest performer in green, which I'm going to do right now. And then you can do light gray for, let's say, the low performers. So by looking at this chart, we can see that the hot meals are selling the most at $7,500. And the snacks are the lowest performer. And these are selling around $3,000. So once again, that may be a marketing problem, or perhaps the customers simply just don't like the snacks we're offering. Use a line chart when you want to see how something changes over a period of time. So if we want to track how much profit we made each month, we can just look at these numbers. But the problem is, it's not always easy to tell if we're doing better or worse by just looking at the numbers. So once we turn this data into a chart, the answer becomes a little clearer, and we start to see the trend behind the data. So a trend is just the direction something is moving in. So if it goes up, that's an upward trend. If it goes down, then that's a downward trend. If it's not really changing, then that's a flat trend. So you don't actually have to guess whether things are improving or not. A trend just shows you the direction your data is heading. Anyways, enough talk. Let's get into the chart building. So I'm going to select our data set, and then I'm going to go to insert, and then I'm going to click on insert line or area chart. And then I'm just going to click on line, and then I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, then just drag this here. And then I'm just going to rename the title profit over time, let's call it. And then I'm going to add chart elements and then axis titles. So I'll start with the primary horizontal. And then I'm just going to call this month for the months on the x-axis. And then once again, go to axis titles and then primary vertical for the y-axis. And then I'm going to name this profit in dollars. I suppose if I've got dollars in the y-axis title, then I don't need it for the title here. It's redundant. And then we can just observe what the chart is telling us. In fact, let's actually add data labels. Let's add it above the numbers, and then we'll delete, well actually, yeah, we'll delete the y-axis. So we no longer need it. So if you notice, so the profit starts at $2,000 in January, and then it jumps to 2,800 in February, and then it drops again in March to 2,400, and then it goes up again in April to $3,100 or $3,100, and then it settles a bit lower in May at $3,000. Even though the numbers go up and down month by month, the overall direction is positive. That's actually a good segue to talking about trend lines. So what's a trend line? So a trend line is a straight line that Excel adds to your chart to show the overall direction your data is heading. So it actually doesn't follow exact data points per se. All it's doing is it shows you the general movement over time. Let me actually show you how to add one. So under chart designs, you go to add chart element, and then you're going to see trend line here. And then just click on linear. Can you see this line, this dotted line that's moving from January to May? That's the trend line there. If you notice, the trend line is actually sloping upwards. So that means the profit is increasing over time. So yes, even though March had a dip and May didn't really beat April, the overall direction of the business is still positive, and that's what matters most. This line makes one thing clear: our profit is actually rising over time. And that's the kind of insight a good line chart can help you uncover in seconds without us actually needing to compare each number manually. Use a pie chart to show how smaller parts can make up a whole. So instead of listing how much we spent in each area, we can use a pie chart to show how each expense compares to the others in a single glance. Let me show you how to actually introduce a pie chart to see which of the expenses takes up the biggest slice of the pie. Go to insert, and then you're going to now go to this icon here, insert pie or donut chart. So click on the drop down, and then you're going to click on pie. Now I'm going to zoom out once again, then just drag this perhaps here. So now the data is a pie chart, but we're still going to need to format this so that we can, but we're still going to need to format this so that we can clearly show the insight that's hiding inside our data. So at the moment, our audience will still need to guess what each slice represents or what each slice means. So let's fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to chart elements, and then I'm going to go to data labels, and then I'm going to click on best fits. And then I'm just going to right click on any of the data labels, and then I'm going to click on format data labels. And then I'm going to click category name and percentage. And then let me just drag that out, just space it out a little bit. Now the viewers can actually see what each slice stands for and how big a portion is. So now let's highlight the largest slice in red and then tone down the rest so that they don't distract us. So I'm just going to click on, in fact, what I'm going to do is, let me click out, and then I'm just going to click on this again. And I'm just going to turn everything to light gray. And then I'm going to click on the big slice and then just turn that to red. It's quite a bright red. Let me see if I can actually tone this down a bit. So what I've done is, in case you didn't see that, I've just clicked out of the slice, clicked into the largest slice, and then I went to color, and then went to more colors, and then I'm just gonna see which one makes the most sense. You want it to stand out, but at the same time, you want it to maintain a good shade. I'll see if I can. Yeah, okay, I like this one. So now the salary slice is in red. The second largest one is rent. So let's actually color this as well. I'm gonna give this, let's give it the color blue. So basically, one of the reasons why I've highlighted the largest slice red and rent blue is because we're visually telling our audience, hey, this is the slice you should care about. Ignore the other slices. It's as simple as that. What we can do, so we can actually go one step further by pulling out the salaries slice. So I'm going to click on the salary slice, and then I'm just going to drag it slightly outwards, just like that. So now it stands out even more. So this is helpful if you want your viewers to walk away with just one main point. So in this case, that salaries are taking the biggest chunk of our expenses. And then, yeah, let me just rename the title. Let's call it expenses breakdown. And then we can expand it a little bit. You have the option of removing the legends because we have the data labels already. So the legends are redundant, you can say. But if you want, you can leave it on there. So salaries are the biggest expenses and it makes up nearly half of all our spending. And then rent comes second, and everything else like supplies, marketing, utilities are much smaller in comparison. So this chart makes it obvious where the money is going. And that's the power of a well-designed pie chart. Use a tree map when you want to compare categories that are grouped inside other categories, especially if you want to see how each subcategory contributes to the whole. So if we want to see sales by department and then sales by product inside each department, a tree map can actually help us with this. So select the data and then go to insert. And then you're going to go to this icon here. And then you're going to click on tree map. So I'm just going to drag this, maybe drag it there. And I'm going to expand this a little bit. So Excel is grouping the data by department, and it also fills each block or tile based on how big the sales are. So the tile with the most sales are bigger than the ones with the smallest sales. So just by looking at this alone, I know that pizza and pasta have bigger sales than snacks like chips or chocolate. It's just right in your face. And that's what I like about it. And so if you want to actually add some of the data labels, what you can do is you can go to add chart elements under chart design tab, and then go to data labels and then click show. So at the moment it is showing, but in case yours don't show, then this is how you do make it show. And then what I can do is I can right click on one of the data labels and click on format data labels. And you have the choice of adding the value if you want. You can add the series name if you want. So for now, I think I'm happy with the category names only. I should mention, if you hover your mouse over any of the tiles, Excel will actually show you a tooltip with extra information. So in this case, it's showing me that this is pizza. I'm hovering over the pizza tile, and the value of that is 8,000. So the sales for pizza is 8,000. If I do the same for pasta, you see that's 3,500. If I do apples, then you can see it's 2,500, and so on and so forth. So what story does the chart tell us? One thing we do know is that hot meals are showing the most on the chart. So it's actually taking up the most real estate on the chart. And pizza alone, in fact, pizza and pasta alone make up a huge chunk of our total sales. And then you have fresh fruits like apples, bananas, oranges, and you have beverages which are performing okay. But snacks are visibly struggling. So they take up the smallest space in the chart. So that's a red flag that we cannot ignore. Maybe our snacks are not being promoted well, or maybe customers don't even know they're available. So let's have conversations with our marketing team and ask how we can get more visibility on snacks. Should we promote them near the checkout? Or should we create bundle deals or run ads online or set up different marketing campaigns? Those are conversations we can now have based on what we've seen in the tree map. And if we want to name the title, we can name the title Sales Breakdown by Departments and Products. So if you do want to practice yourself, I did create a workbook for practicing data visualization, and you can find the GitHub link in the description below. If there is one thing I want you to remember, it's this. Your visuals should make your message clearer, not harder to find. So this is what you need to do to keep this in mind. First of all, you need to keep it simple. If people need to think too hard to read your charts, it's not doing a good job. Use color and layout with purpose. So guide your viewers' eyes to the most important insights. Don't let styling become a distraction. And avoid fancy formatting. Don't use 3D charts, don't use shadows, and don't use gradients unless you really, really have to do so. They may look nice and pretty, but they will only distort the data and confuse your audience. So just remember that the best charts don't look good only. They help people understand the story you're trying to tell them within seconds. Keywords within seconds. And that right there is part one of data visualization in Excel completed.